Tonight, a child electrocuted on a railway line, and there's a train coming. The woman who owes her life to her dog. How the medical services cope with the TT races, and what you should do if a child's choking. Most adults know full well that trespassing on the railway is illegal and dangerous. But children may not always understand signs like this one. And there are no other obvious clues that some railway lines constantly carry electricity 3 times more powerful than the supply at home and more than enough to kill you. Barry Smith was 3.5 when he strayed onto the railway near his home near Croydon. Now, some people may be upset at our reconstruction of what happened to Barry, but he was one of the lucky ones. He lived to tell the tale. It's a tale both he and his mother wanted us to tell, as a warning to others that the railway isn't a playground.
Being told exactly what had happened was numbing. I couldn't take it in.
The electric rail is like an animal in a cage. It will kill.
I was going to work and I took Barry, as usual, to the childminder.
I'll see you later. Bye.
I've been a driver on British Rail for 42 years. We moved into this flat overlooking the railway line, and the children play on the green, and they're always over the fence. The electric rail, you should be miles away from it. Don't get anywhere near it.
All right, let's go and get some blackberries. We're not allowed to go in there. Come on.
But the children ignored Gordon's constant warnings.
Come on, Barry, aren't you coming with us?
And on that day, 3-year-old Barry followed them through the fence. As they got closer to the electric rail, a train was coming down the track.
Hello, love. Everything all right?
Well, no, because
I looked across the track,
Like a bundle of
and I
roses.
saw a little bit of
I think
rag, looked like, on the line, and then there was a puff of smoke. I knew something was in touch with the rail.
My God, it's a child. Ring British Rail. Get them to switch off the power. Then get on to the police and an ambulance. Hurry.
In my time, I've shifted several bodies off the electric rail, and this one, being a small child, upset me more than anything or anybody can tell. I just flew across that grass. When I got to the fence, I see this little child, and I thought, he should be dead. He should be dead. I just thought, well, there's no way can I touch him. No way. How am I going to get him up?
If he touched Barry, Gordon would get a shock from the electricity running through Barry's body.
And suddenly I spotted this piece of wood. I thought, just right. God, we've only got one chance, please. And I snatched him and turned him over and laid him beside the train.
It was only then that Gordon realised that a train was coming. He didn't stop to think of the risk to himself, only saving Barry.
I just prayed that he'd stop. And he stopped about 15 feet from us.
Problem.
Use a short circuit bar to blow out the substation fuse.
Rightio.
Don't make the electric rail line dead.
Right.
The circuit hadn't been broken, so everything was still alive. And it only needs a fraction of a touch. You can be severely burnt or even killed.
Won't be long now.
I've never seen any injuries like it. But he was still conscious, crying for his mum.
Right, bar going down, look away!
The driver tried to make the electric rail safe by using a short-circuit conductor.
Look away!
This ought to blow the substation fuse and stop all the electricity running through the rail. But they weren't sure that it had worked and had to assume that it hadn't.
I'm not sure if we've got it. We'll have to treat it as live.
Right.
Once again, Gordon risked his life, this time by crossing a line which could be live.
Here, lads. Take it easy. Where's the ambulance?
The ambulance is not here. We're taking.
All right, but look after him, because he's pretty bad.
Barry was taken to the Queen Victoria Hospital in East Grinstead.
He seemed very, very frail. He was covered up, so I didn't see at that point just what his injuries were. Just sort of his face, and just sort of held his hand. That's all. He looked so small then.
The first thing we did was take him to our treatment room and inspect his injuries. And as I suspected, he had 3 very deep burns. The first one was on the elbow, the second on his leg, and the third on his abdomen. The reason I wanted to see you today was because by the time sort of a week had gone, it was obvious that the wound on his elbow, the nerve was destroyed, and in his leg, the actual bone had been burnt through. And so we came to this rather frightful decision that he really did need an amputation of that left leg.
It took us a long time to make the decision how we were going to tell him. It wasn't easy, but it was the way he accepted it that I find it quite touching.
We decided we would actually steal from his amputated leg that he couldn't use again the nerve that was running down through it, and use that nerve from the leg that was useless to repair his elbow.
I thought, please let him be all right. Let him be all right. Over and over again.
Seeing Barry so many years later, it was just a great joy to me. Even his mother said he needs several legs a year because he gets through them so fast. In other words, he's really using them. I looked straight at his hand and was overjoyed to see he had completely normal function. So I was very, very happy.
I'm very proud of Barry, how he manages to cope, and I often think that I don't think I would cope as well as he did.
People say to me, well, you shouldn't have been so stupid, you shouldn't go on the train line then, should you? And I said, I was only 3, I wasn't as old as I am now. They just said that I was going to have my leg amputated, and I think I started crying, but then they said, oh, you're not going to be awake, you're going to be asleep. So that made me feel a bit better. Don't play on the train lines because you might die or something, but you might not be as lucky as me. I could have been dead if Gordon wasn't there to save me.
Since this accident, I never went back. I couldn't face the railway no more. Why? I've given my life to it, and now it's taken it away. I'm frightened of electric trains. I keep thinking to myself, try, go on, try. But the memory don't go away.
I would like to help him come over his fear and then try and take him on a train.
It'd be nice to have a go on steaming, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I've been longing for years to see him. He couldn't have got down the stairs of those flats
and you don't get no trouble.
quicker than if he'd got 2 good legs, and he come across that grass like a greyhound and leaped into my arms, and I felt proud.
I didn't think he was going to come on, but then I just held his hand, and then he asked the driver to start to go, and then we went. I just felt really good.
It really made my day to think, at last, I've been able to get on a train of some sort. You with me? I've done it.
Barry certainly owes his life to Gordon. The railway line's not a place you can have an accident and expect to survive. Around 250 people a year are killed, far more than those who escape with their injuries. Most of the victims are in fact over 16 and are hit by trains. So if you're ever tempted to take a shortcut across any working line, don't. An express train travels at 125 miles an hour, and the driver can't stop quickly or swerve to avoid you. You may think that you'll see or hear it in time to get out of the way, but many people have taken that gamble and lost.
If you're a regular viewer of 999, you may remember that last year we followed the work of Dr. Gareth Davies of the Helicopter Emergency Service, based at the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel. Gareth still works at the same hospital, but now he's a senior registrar here in the A&E department. And even when he's not here, he's working. His home is on the Isle of Man, and every year he goes back for the island's famous TT races. He's a keen motorbike enthusiast himself, but he doesn't go as a spectator or as a performer. Instead, he joins the medical team as an emergency doctor. And while everything's done to keep the races as safe as possible, there's always plenty of action to keep Gareth busy. While none of these accidents were fatal, police on the island have come to expect more than 30 serious incidents every year when the 400 competitors and 35,000 spectators arrive for the island's biggest crowd puller.
The racing itself actually takes place on public roads, which are closed specifically for the event. And the fact that it's 37 miles long makes it particularly difficult to provide medical cover for.
Here they go. There's not one piece of this track that you can say is a black spot. It's 37 miles.
Yeah. If you bring them all together for 2 weeks on one island, tens of thousands of them, there are going to be accidents.
First call out, and they've got to be prepared for anything.
But essentially, we don't know what we're going to. We get very limited information from the control room, simply giving us a serious road traffic accident. Walking means, isn't it?
Check this back out. He seems to be all right. It's just knocked the wind out of him, I think.
Nothing really very much for us to do. So we'll get out of everybody's way, I think.
We're not qualified to deal with the injuries that we see out here. That's more for the paramedics and the doctors. First aid won't help these fellows.
Despite that, all 200 of the island's police officers are on duty during the races.
We'll get you picked up in a minute. There's nothing actually hurting on you?
No, it's just down this side,
right.
Down the ribs up.
Right, we're just going to put a neck collar on them. You never know with motorcycle injuries whether he's actually twisted his neck or his back. Okay? What we're going to do is just slot it under your chin. Right. Is everything okay? Is that okay? Feel all right?
Yeah. A Belgian motorcyclist who's been coming down a very fast piece of the track and has completely misjudged a left-hand bend at the very end, where he's overshot the bend and hit the hedge on the outside of the curve and catapulted himself into the field beyond. Luckily there wasn't anything else in the field and he just landed on the grass, but he travelled probably about 40 yards before he came to a standstill.
I can't breathe. You can't breathe. Right. Step over the other side.
The chap has cracked the ribs down the right side of his chest and has air and blood surrounding the lung on that side. He's had a drain put into his chest. He also has a fracture of his left hip and his pelvis.
92 accidents were reported during the races, and more than a third of them involved multiple broken bones. Tragically, one competitor died, despite the presence of a full-time medical team.
Do you think it's made a difference with us, the paramedics or the doctors travelling in?
Oh yes, there's no two ways about that. Policemen are not paramedics, they're not doctors. And even the best will in the world, there's just no way we can cope with some of the more serious accidents and the trauma cases. And I think you're wonderful.
I love you.
Any emergency is distressing, but it often seems so much worse when children are involved. What we're about to show you is a reconstruction of a common enough situation that any of us might be faced with, and which tragically kills 20 children a year. Would you know what to do?
Quick, Lucy's not well.
Lucy? Judy, I need some help.
What is it? Oh, Lucy. Well, what can we do?
OK, keep calm. The first thing to do is to look into her mouth. Is there an obvious obstruction that you can take out?
I can't see anything.
Well, look a bit further down.
No, only reach for something that you can actually see. Otherwise, you might damage her throat.
OK.
If she's breathing, ask her to cough. That might dislodge whatever's stuck.
Lucy, try and cough for me. That's it, OK, good girl. Once more.
Oh, for goodness sake, we can't just sit here trying to make her cough. It's not going to work. She can't breathe. What are we going to do?
If you panic, the child will panic too. Bend her forward so her head is lower than her chest and give her 5 firm slaps between the shoulder blades.
But isn't this going to hurt her?
Yes, it might hurt a bit, but you must try it, because if you don't clear her throat, oxygen might not get to her brain, which could lead to brain damage or even death.
But it's not working. Shouldn't we call an ambulance?
Yes, but get somebody else to do it.
All right.
And make sure that they tell you it's coming. You stay with the child and keep checking her mouth to see if anything's been dislodged.
That's right, darling. Open your mouth. I can't see anything.
You need to lie her on her back to do chest thrusts. I'll tell you how to do them. You need to measure 2 finger widths up from the point where the breastbone joins the ribs. Then use one hand only and do 5 sharp thrusts. These will force the air out and might get the obstruction out too. Keep reassuring her, though, because she won't like it.
It's all right, darling. You're going to be all right.
But it's not working.
We'll just have to try something else.
You must stay calm. Now, go back to the original back slaps.
We've tried these already.
Don't give up now. Obstructions can take some time to work loose.
It's not working. She's going blue.
If she's going blue, it means that she's getting dangerously short of breath.
There must be something else we can try.
If the back slaps and chest thrusts aren't working, you'll need to do abdominal thrusts, also known as the Heimlich manoeuvre. But never do this on a child under a year old, as it could injure them.
We don't know how to do that.
You need to sit down behind her and put your arms around her waist. Clasp your hands together, one palm up, one down.
OK, right.
Then give a sharp pull inwards and upwards below the ribs. Repeat this no more than 5 times.
2, 3.
Oh, it's worse.
And if she'd stop breathing, you'd have to breathe for her. It goes against really all our instincts to hit a child, but you may have to slap them that hard to get rid of a blockage. You'll have to judge when to call an ambulance, but remember, it's better to call and then cancel than leave it too late. Although we've shown you what it'd be like to cope with that kind of emergency, nothing can replace the value of going on a course. St John Ambulance and St Andrew's Ambulance are running a course called The Breath of Life, and they're offering 85,000 free places between October the 30th and November the 5th. To reserve a place, then call this number, 0891 11 44 33. Places are on a first-come, first-served basis, so if you don't get through straight away, then try again. And we'll give you that number again at the end of the programme.
Most dog owners will be familiar with the sort of identity disc that Deefa here has on his collar. It basically gives the name and the address of his owner should he get lost. When Carol Packer was involved in an accident while out walking her dog, Bracken, the disc on Bracken's collar came to serve a very different purpose. It was the only clue to Carol's identity.
You could literally walk over the top of her and not know she was there.
I couldn't get down there because the dog was growling at me.
Carol! I was scared witless. I don't mind admitting it.
In this reconstruction, Carol and her husband are played by actors.
Bye.
Carol had been ill over just about a 7-year period with suspected gallbladder trouble, but there was no conclusive proof that's what it was, so because of that, nobody would take the gamble and operate. On the fateful day, I came home around about normal time. Carol said to me she hadn't felt too brilliant all day. She felt a little bit faint, so she said she'd go out and take Bracken for a walk, and hopefully then a bit of fresh air would help clear her and she'd be fine for the evening. He was an absolutely wonderful dog. Definitely Carol's dog. Anybody who went near her, then his hackles would rise and he'd be there on the defensive immediately. Carol had been gone about half an hour or so, and I was expecting her to be back well before then. Knowing the problem she'd had, that she wasn't feeling well, I was worried that something could have happened to her.
But Carol was on a different route to normal, and she started to feel dizzy.
Carol! Bracken!
She sat down on what she thought was a wall.
I'll be all right in a minute.
Carol!
But it wasn't. It was the parapet of a bridge.
Carol! Carol!
The family were new to the area, and Stephen had no idea that Carol had taken a different route. He never went anywhere near the remote lane where Carol had fallen.
Carol!
Carol lay unconscious in the stream for more than an hour before Bracken's efforts to attract somebody's attention finally paid off. But the jogger was too frightened of Bracken to go down to Carol, so she ran to the nearest house for help.
When the doorbell went, there was this lady there saying that a woman was down the lane, and because she was foreign, I didn't really understand what she was saying. So I was expecting somebody had just sort of fallen over and twisted their ankle or something. I wasn't expecting to see somebody lying at the bottom of on the concrete, and then I suddenly thought, oh, what do I do? So I decided to go around the side and try and get down to the bank to see to her. But the dog was there, and he sort of started barking and growling at me.
Wait here. I'll get an ambulance.
Stephen was still searching, but it was starting to get dark, so he decided to go home for the car. Meanwhile, Keena came back with her friend Kim, who'd had an idea of how to lure Bracken out of the way.
Good girl. Good girl. Kim actually got the dog away with a tin of corned beef.
This meant that Keena could get down the bank to Carol.
The ambulance is on its way. She was very cold and very blue around the lips, which I was worried that she might sort of go into hypothermia. I didn't know whether there was any head injuries or anything. So I knew that she's better off where she was, not to move her.
Sit.
It was fortunate that the dog had a tag, because Carol didn't have any ID on her, so that we could actually get in contact with the family. Kim went back to the house and phoned.
Just as I got back to the house, I heard the phone ring and was told that Carol was down by the bridge, collapsed.
I could see that her condition was starting to deteriorate.
Come on, try and keep awake.
The ambulance services seemed to be taking a long time to come, and it was dark.
I'm going to take your pulse now.
I couldn't find her pulse, and I suddenly started thinking, that she could be dead, and then I started panicking.
I didn't really know what to expect. I just hoped that what I had been told was right, and that basically all she had done is collapse, because this had happened quite a few times, and I knew how to deal with that. Carol? I started to talk to her, but there was nothing. So it was very, very frightening. Is the ambulance on its way?
Yes, it's coming.
Down here!
Hi.
She was very, very cold and a lot of pain.
I don't know.
She had a very low pulse rate, a very low respiration rate. We couldn't find the blood pressure on her. She was that cold, and she was rapidly deteriorating. You can't risk just putting her flat on the back in case she goes unconscious. Therefore, we just had to get her out of the stream as quick as possible. But it was obvious that we were not going to do it on our own.
We can't extract the lady without any help. We require the fire service as soon as possible, over. Fire service are on the way, John. What we're going to do, Carol, is put a little collar onto your neck, all right? Just to help keep your head still.
The fire service arrived within 10 minutes. At last, they could get Carol out of the water.
Down here, lads. What we want to do is try and keep her flat as we lift her, all right?
It's 10 feet, maybe a little bit more from the bridge down into the stream. This bank was quite steep, very overgrown. We had to try and do it carefully, not knowing exactly the extent of the injuries.
Hey lads, nice and steady. Come up to you on the level.
Stephen stayed behind with Bracken while Carol was taken to Taunton Hospital. She had a fractured hip, concussion and severe hypothermia, but it could have been a lot more serious.
She was found because of the dog. Without him, she would have been down in the ditch all night. And if she had been, she would have been dead. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I went on the usual route, and I thought, well, I still don't feel right, so I'll try to go a bit further. And I started to feel really, really odd. And the first thing that came to mind was I must sit down. And then all of a sudden, everything just started going black. Every time I came around, the dog was either licking my face or up on the bank barking. And I was getting really worried, because I thought I was going to die. If Bracken hadn't have been barking, then I wouldn't have been found at all. There's no doubt in my mind that he saved my life.
Sadly, 4 months after the accident, Bracken developed a serious illness. He was in such pain that the vet decided the kindest thing was to put him to sleep.
It just seemed so unfair that his life was snatched away like that. And we couldn't help him like he'd helped me.
Several months later, Carol was invited to receive a posthumous award for Bracken.
The plaques for intelligence and courage.
Well, Carol, may I present this to you on behalf of our
Oh, it's beautiful, thank you. And just as I was turning to leave, a presenter from the local television company turned up.
Now I've got a little man.
Oh, look!
He's called Lucky Man.
Hi. Hello!
And he's
He's
yours.
better looking than you, isn't he?
He's yours.
He's not.
He is.
Oh.
There.
Oh, I don't believe this.
What?
Oh, you sweetheart. Hello. He told me it was called Lucky. And I thought, well, I am lucky to be given it, so he'll keep his name. And Lucky and I have been together ever since, and he's as close to me and as loyal to me as Bracken was. They never replaced Bracken, because Bracken's irreplaceable. But he's helped take the hurt off it a little bit.
Next week, a baby gets his fingers trapped at bath time, and nothing his mother does can get him free. And when a boy falls and fractures his skull, his life depends on his friends.
To reserve one of 85,000 places on the Breath of Life course, call 0891 1111.
Scores, and that's the Midlands News. Now the weather.
Dusk, brighter showery weather in the north, but then on Saturday, some more wind and rain for Northern Ireland and Scotland.
In the 1920s and 30s, the cinema offered a great escape to an ever-growing audience. Mass entertainment recalled by People's Century on BBC One in half an hour.
I am Gareth Blackstock. I am seriously unpleasant.
What's sour?
I'm not a nice man. I don't do loyalty or helping out friends or being reasonable. Obviously, you were misled into thinking otherwise by the warmth and charm of my personality.
Rather sharp.
I think you have as much chance of becoming a top chef as John Major has of becoming a stand-up comedian.
And a recipe for indigestion. Lenny Henry is chef.
Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yes, chef! Monday, 10:10 on BBC One.
Out of the frying pan and into the mildew household now on BBC One with Kylie. What a pet.
They say I might as well face the truth, but I am just too low.
This Sunday evening, let BBC Two put the passion back into your life. A woman of substance.
The property of a family belongs to the men of the family.
In search of Mr. Right.
A man, certainly, but like no one I know.
From unrequited love to true romance.
The reason that Princess Elizabeth married Prince Philip was that she was totally in love with him. It was without the slightest doubt a love match.
A double bill straight from the heart. Sunday evening on BBC Two.
Each one of